I was there. I don't have to listen to it.
This week's show because it was a disaster.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
I'm Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I'm Tony Rousseau, no relation, and you're listening to Day Drinking on Delmarva, podcast about life and culture on the Delmarva Peninsula. Todd drinks because he gets to live here. I drink because I have to live here. And I'm actually not drinking today because I ran out of booze. When has that ever happened before?
Ooh, that's scary. That's like end of times stuff.
But other than that, it's been a special week, and we're going to get into all of it. But before we do, each week we're sponsored by a local business that we're very proud of, and we've been neglecting, but we're back on it. And this week we're sponsored by Good Clean Fun Life Productions.
I didn't know which way we were going to go. I didn't know if you were going to have.
I had absolutely nothing to say, so I figured if I threw it at you, I'd be. It looks like I'm being generous, but I'm really being lazy.
Yeah. Yes. Good, Clean Fun Productions. We do it all, folks. From trending audio reels that look just like TikToks to long format podcasts and videos. We also do websites, graphics, design, and we're all booked up.
And if you need any of that done, check again in the fall.
Yeah, please hold on the line. No, we're very fortunate to have a lot of good clients that we're working for right now. Interestingly, I had somebody call and ask if I wanted to get back into construction. And while it was a very flattering call, because it's more like, they're building a new construction business and it's going to be high end, and it's going to be, I don't think they were looking for me to come back and be a superintendent, but like ground floor of a building company, I guess. And they're like, oh, I just described the perfect person for this position to my partner, and I realized I was describing you, so I thought I'd at least call and kind. See. So that was kind, but the thought of having to, I don't know, leave the house before 8 o'clock.
Why would anyone? I have actually a pet peeve, and I'm trying not to. I think I may have given my last polite no to people who ask if they can be on our radio show that's on the local NPR station. It's been like 5 years.
Yeah.
And there's this weird thing where people are really interested in your ability to promote them, but they don't even read what you write. And I was saying before we go on, before we went on the air, I was telling Todd, it's been a struggle for me personally. I've been struggling with, trying to find something that I can write that people will read and pay attention to, or at least acknowledge, and I'm feeling very, down about that. And so then when people, and it happened this week, 2 people reached out and they're like, hey, can I be on your radio show? And
for context.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So for context, I hosted a show called So What's Your Story with Stephanie Fowler, friend of the show. And she's been on the show several times. And we hosted it pretty much until COVID started. We had already kind of fallen off when COVID started, because for lots of reasons, mostly because we were both writing, books, and it was a very busy time. So we had to kind of put it on the shelf, and we had put it on the shelf for like 6 or 8 months. And the Salisbury Poetry Foundation reached out to us, and they're like, well, our big shot poet is coming into town. Can they be on your show? And because Stephanie is so much nicer than me, Stephanie's like, sure. And then she's like, hey, we have to do a show again. And we did a show to put this poet to talk to this poet. And I'm like, if you're not listening, if you don't know that we're on every week, that we're not on every week and haven't
Right.
been on every week for 6 months to a year,
Yeah.
why would you want to be on the show? Like, you don't listen to it. When I pitch a lot of podcasts for me to be on as an author for my book, Dragged into the Light. And when, and before I pitch him, I always at least listen to the show to see if it's something I could stand to be on. And if
Right.
it's something that I think people who might like my book might listen to.
Right.
And the number of people who don't do that, I mean, I still get pitches for This Is War, like to my personal account. Like, I tried reaching out to This Is War, but it looks like it's closed. But maybe my uncle was in Vietnam, and I think it would be really good if you talk to him. And like, no,
Yeah.
I haven't done that for a very long time. And it's just disappointing. So, I mean, it's nice to be asked, but it's also like, how do you not know that I haven't done that for such a long time?
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it's
It
that's
really
where-
doesn't. It really doesn't take a whole lot of research to figure that out.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
you know.
look at your LinkedIn. When was the last time it was like, have Hammer will travel? You know?
Exactly.
You know, I like if they went to your LinkedIn and it was like, you know, videos and occasional home repair or something, they'd be like, all right, well, maybe he still keeps his hand in. But
Yeah.
you know, there's a particular artist who I won't name, even though I know he doesn't listen to the show, who reaches out to me to ask about me coming out and doing a story on him again every 8 months to a year. And I haven't even told him I don't work at the Bayside Gazette anymore.
So no more polite no's. If you haven't done the basic research, you just get are you a fucking idiot?
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I started doing with, because I also get a lot of publicists who are like, my client wants to be on your show. You know, will you have them on your show? I always say yes. And then I don't show up to the interview. And when they say, oh, I thought we had a thing, I'm like, oh, yeah, well, we canceled the show 4 years ago. I didn't feel like I could tell you because I didn't think you cared.
Right. You didn't care enough to find out before. You didn't find out during, or, you know, just prior. Yeah.
Like, the show isn't on anymore because you didn't listen.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't mean to rant, but that
was good.
But anyway, so when you're not busy, you're taking clients.
Yeah. When we're not busy, we are taking clients. And you know, there's a whole. We've been talking a lot about it. Natalie and I have been talking about how there's a very trendy thing that is happening with what's going on in social media. And just to, you know, put a pin in what we do is we've had a heartbeat on it for the past 10 or so years, and it's constantly changing. That doesn't mean we're not occasionally susceptible to what the trends are. I mean, always aware, but like, you know, kind of falling into the trap of trying to emulate it. And really what it comes down to is that we're about original, authentic, and lasting content. And I mean, I think this podcast is a testament to that, and all of our tens of listeners. And I think that's.
I'm sorry, and we treasure you if you're listening.
Yes. When I poke fun at our tens of,
because you're the elite, because you get it, and most people don't.
Yeah, I do. I do very much value that, for sure. And I think more so now. I think because of getting caught up in these short trends of like just trying to chase views has made me realize that this is much more a good use of time than many other things.
Well, that's the other thing that when I was speaking earlier about being down, that's kind of been at the heart of it. It's like, I make this stuff, but I'm not making reels. I'm not making reels. And that means that I don't get to be a writer, which seems wrong. Like, wait, you're not producing videos, then you shouldn't be able to write.
Yeah.
Like, But when I go to social media, there's no, I had a book, I had a marketing plan. All right, I'm like, you know what? I would rather be poor. I would rather be poor than have to get up every day and do something on TikTok on the off chance that maybe someone would buy my book,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where it gets really disappointing.
Yeah.
It's disappointing that the way to get things out isn't there's a new gatekeeper, and the new gatekeeper is the 10-second social media, and you can't.
Yeah.
People who are smarter than me do, and people who work harder than me do, people who are more talented than me do. But for me, being less smart, less talented, and less motivated, I have to give up on promoting myself on social media because it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried. I'm like, I'm going to embrace Instagram, and I don't know if you noticed or not, but Instagram is TikTok now.
It is. Yeah. Well, and that's
That's what you were
exactly
saying
what we've
earlier.
faced.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny. I saw a great quote from Chuck D of Public Enemy, and it was artists were not meant to be content creators, and that really
my stance on the content creator thing.
and I know, and I've always
Chuck
called
D.
I've always considered myself a content creator, and been less comfortable with the term artist, but I think more and more, and I know your stance is like, like you're just a creator. You're like, you don't have to qualify it as being specific to content for social media. And I'm feeling that more and more these days. And I think that there is a good place for my knowledge and talents for businesses.
Yes.
End of
Because
commercial.
I think the what you guys do well is I think it's one of the things we have in common is you get the sense of it right.
Mm-hmm.
And the sense of a place is going to endure, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, a picture of a dog with I don't know, with sunglasses on. That's going to get the hits, but it's not. It's like those commercials where you're like, oh, that was a funny commercial, but I have no idea what it was for. I don't know what the company sells. I don't know what the company does.
Yeah.
I know that there's a dog with sunglasses and I think it's cute. And, it feels like a missed opportunity. I mean, I don't think we should hold Facebook to any kind of standards, and we should know that. But the enthusiasm with which they've decided that they're going to make themselves like TikTok instead of just letting TikTok be a fad and a separate thing, is disappointing, only because like Facebook, yes, was for old people, but at least it was for old people. Now it's not for old people, and young people still aren't coming. So that's, and Twitter is always going to be Twitter, and that's more of a hobby than a way of getting the word out. There was a really interesting report I saw from Neiman Labs that said, Twitter has now really just become for journalists to tell people the short version of the stories that people aren't reading in the goddamn newspaper.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and that's how I use it. I use it to get a sense of what the reporters are covering, because as a reporter, I want to know. But it's, as it turns out, that's all that's going on Twitter. It's everybody looking at other people's story ideas and improving upon them or whatever. So,
and
selling one another hats.
Well, and that is what Reels has become. It's like, oh, this person, my friend, has used this audio, and I've heard it 2 other places, and I now had better use it, so that I don't miss the opportunity to use it. Yeah. And it's just like from a creative perspective in making a video, the music and the audio has always been incredibly important to me, and to help frame and tell, a story, even if it is a super short story, and to feel beholden to something, and like put a round peg in a square hole is what I feel like is happening. So,
right. And just to maintain the views. And I don't
Yeah.
I mean, I said it before. I'm not working for Facebook. I'm certainly not working for TikTok.
Mm.
You know, I'm never going to be the guy who's producing enough to get to get a paycheck out of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that's where we've come to land back on sort of our original intent, is that in terms of views, it's not quantity, it's quality of views. So these are people that are going to actually follow or be interested. I don't care if you follow, but be
Right,
interested in
engage.
what you're doing or what a client is doing, and come and put their ass in a seat and buy an Orange Crush. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Right. Speaking of putting your ass in a seat and buying an Orange Crush, what did you do this week?
I had another great responsible bus trip into Ocean City, our beloved Ocean City. It's so fun to go. We've spent better part of 2 decades being Ocean City people, and now that we are mostly doing work up in the Delaware beaches, it's fun for those Delaware people to come down and experience Ocean City, and for us to be a part of it and show them all of the fun, good spots that we know and enjoy, even some of the touristy stuff. Secrets on a Tuesday in the summertime is not a bad place to be. It's fun to be able to kind of poke fun at the poor lads who are still going into the bay just because they feel like they have to. Not for me. That's okay. You do you. But it was great to have the Starboard crew specifically come down to Ocean City. We were just going to meet them for like a drink or two, and ended up jumping on the bus with them and rode around and really had just a nice time and with good people. And I think that's what Ocean City intends to do. But somehow in the volume that is Ocean City, that gets harder and harder to do when there's so many other people around with sort of competing agendas, I guess.
Yeah, maybe they should put up another hotel.
It's certainly
not another hotel. Maybe they should put up another 1,000 condos.
Yeah.
That's what it's we were talking about this earlier, and this is me getting a little nasty, but I'm not going to get as nasty as I normally do. We were talking about fish for some reason, and somebody said crabs are hard to get this year, and I'm like, good. I hope that the crab fishermen all starve to death. I hope that the tuna fishermen starve to death, or maybe they can get jobs selling T-shirts. But if you don't want to treat, and they're like, well, no, it's the government keeping us from catching fish, and so now the Japanese are catching them. Don't care. Do not care at all. All the fish are going to be gone, and you knew it, and you didn't care. So I don't see why. I'm not going to get to have a crab feast this year, not because of price, just because of I just realized I haven't had one, and the summer's pretty much over. But you know what I mean? It's like if you're not a good steward of your area, then you're going to have to pay the price. And when Ocean City decided it wanted to go from being a small family resort to being, a poor man's Miami, that's what it took on. And those are the prices that eventually they'll pay, but they won't pay them,
No, it's funny you were saying that. And I mean, I do love crabs, but it's interesting to to think about, and steward of the resources is definitely something that came to mind. We grow a lot of our own veggies here, and like have continually expanded that. There's from what I understand, in Broad Street, which is right around the corner here, is one of the few places that still only gets crabs from the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, not that that's a good thing, because the population has been down, but when it's just been pulled from, over sourced, and now all the places in Ocean City, you're getting your all you can eat crabs from Louisiana, and not like
And
the
keeping it at
Maryland.
$19.95 instead of making it $130, which is a fair price.
Right.
What can we sell to these idiots cheap?
Yeah.
That's Ocean City's motto. And it must be paying off for them because they keep doing it. But
Yeah.
when and if it stops, I'll be happy. And
Yeah.
I will not feel bad. I will feel bad because there will be some sort of taxpayer stimulus to Ocean City hotel owners that I'll have to pay, and that will make me unhappy.
Yeah.
But probably not, because they're all anti-tax, so they wouldn't want to take tax money. They wouldn't want a tax increase just to save their ponies. Oh wait, they already did that.
Yeah.
Do you remember that what's the
Chincoteague?
no, there's a Happy Time place with a carousel, and I can't think of the name of it. It's not Playland, it's Trimpers.
Trimpers?
Yeah, and Trimpers are like, if you don't cut taxes, we're gonna have to close. I'm like, good, fuck you, close. That was in 2008.
Yeah.
And they didn't give them the tax break, and they didn't close. So I guess Trimpers found the money someplace to keep they're like, we're gonna have to shut down the carousel, and no one can ever ride a carousel in Ocean City again if you don't give us $1 million. And like, all right, well, no $1 million. And they're like, all right, well, we were just kidding.
Well,
We're scum.
We'll figure it out.
Brutal. It is so brutal. I'm so sorry. So that was a nice bus trip though you had then, yes?
It was a nice bus trip. There are some, in my opinion, some gems in Ocean City still. I say the same thing about Baltimore, that I have love for it, warts and all. I don't think there's a perfect place on earth, but I think you can find those good people who work at places, people who run businesses responsibly as possible, and I think that the doing it in what we consider good, clean fun and in a responsible way is important to me. And the whole bus trip, we talked a bit
that was smart.
Is like, it's fun to be on the bus. It costs a few extra dollars, but it is worth every bit when you have a professional driver, especially given the current light that's been shown on the lack of infrastructure for both pedestrians and bikers and that sort of thing, and some very unfortunate incidents that have happened all up and down Coastal Highway. It makes sense to take time to pay and be responsible.
One of the things that bothers me is that they have, and this is something that's an Eastern Shore thing. It's not just an Ocean City thing, but there is this terror of putting in pedestrian overpasses, because I think they're afraid that people will sleep in them or people will pee in them. I don't know, and I don't care. Every time they decide not to put one up, they're saying we're comfortable with the number of people that die. Like there's one that should be in Berlin by the Uncle Willis, and they're like, really, just black people cross there, and the more of them that get killed, the better. So the state has no interest in, and every time someone gets killed, there's a big meeting, and they're like, oh, well, we should do something. They're like, well, we'll make people drive slower, but we can't put up a pedestrian crossing that goes over because it's not worth it. Not enough people have died.
And the amazing difference that, you take a big town like Ocean City, where you have 3 lanes of traffic going both directions, is like, how could you have pedestrian crossing that is safe? I compare it to small town of Dewey. But they spent money. They did put a albeit a prettier median fence
Right.
down the middle than what Ocean City
But
did.
they also don't accommodate 6 lanes of traffic.
And they don't accommodate 6 lanes of traffic. But if you go further up into Rehoboth, there is on Route 1 a light that is dedicated, a traffic light that will stop traffic, and it only comes on if there's a pedestrian who comes up and hits the button, and then you're subject to the normal traffic laws, and you have to stop, and that pedestrian can cross what is at that point 4 lanes of traffic. And
I think though the difference in Rehoboth is the bulk of the beachgoers are between the highway and the beach. Right? In Ocean City, they have beach, hotel, highway, condo. So they have at least half, probably 2/3 of the people that go to Ocean City have to cross the highway if they want to go to the beach. In Rehoboth, you have to cross the highway if you want to walk to the goddamn outlets. If you need to go to the Gap instead of 21 Forever or whatever, then you take your life in your hands, but no one will miss you. But if you come to go to the beach and you want to go back and forth to the beach, and that's the problem. I mean, you don't see families packed for the beach for the day crossing the highway in Rehoboth ever. They're already closer to the beach. Ocean City hasn't solved that problem and doesn't seem like it's interested in solving that problem.
Yeah.
Only because I've been covering it for 30 years. I mean, it's not like I'm just making this up,
Right. Yeah.
So that was that fun. I guess one of the other things that I wanted to talk about is the Delaware Independent is closing after just 6 or 8 months, maybe I don't think quite a year. It was an independent news outlet run on Substack. They were able to get startup money from Substack, but they weren't able to get the subscribers because, again, people don't want to pay for news.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But then you do without knowing things. And what's the hardest thing is you do without holding government accountable. And I know for a fact that none of the papers make any effort to hold the governments of Sussex County or Worcester County or Wycomico County accountable. They just say what they've done and why they did it. They never challenged them. And not only is it frowned upon, it's just not part of the culture anymore. It has to do with, I'm not going to lie. I was a participant in the Delaware Independent, and I was proud to do it. And he was paying me $100 a story, which was more than he could afford, and way less than it would cost to get me a professional to write. So, I mean, these were, 1,500 word stories, 2,400 word stories that took a long time to report, and they were deep dives. And unfortunately, people weren't willing to pay for them.
Yeah.
And, so now they'll be putting up all of this stuff, and publishers are here locally. Publishers, with the exception of Gannett, who's not in bed with anybody, are in bed with the developing community, for better or for worse. The real estate ads support the papers, and the papers support building at all costs, and no one's looking out for the people who live here or who are going to have to deal with 6 lanes of traffic in Ocean City and kids getting killed all the time. And it's sad, but it's not a shock. I mean, when I got out of the newspaper business full time on the Eastern Shore, I knew that it was a pointless exercise. We don't want to know. We want things to be unchanged, and we want things to be comfortable. And when they're not comfortable, we just want to complain about it. I remember teasing poor Jeff Smith, our friend. He was upset about something they were building in Berlin. And I'm like, well, I wrote about that in 2009. And everybody said it was a good idea. And I said, no, it's not. And he's like, well, I wasn't living here in 2009. I'm like, yeah, welcome to the Eastern Shore. That's what they do. They make these decisions in the long term. They're like, we're going to build this thing. And everybody's like, yeah, like, don't worry about it. And then they're like, all right, we're starting to build this thing. And everyone's like, why didn't anyone tell me? Like, well, they did. They told you back when the decision was made and you didn't care. Enjoy your new view of, I forget what they did. It was when they finally sold that Tyson factory.
Yeah.
He was kind of up in arms about that. But the other thing about the Tyson factory and about a lot of these huge sales, whenever a town buys something, it's because they're the only ones who would pay the developer's price. Other developers are like, I'm not paying that much for that much. It's worth it to me. And then it would be much easier to get elected to the town and then have the town buy it off me. Which is not what I'm saying happened with the Tyson plant. But I am saying that they tried for years and years and years to sell it, and eventually the town bought it from one of the council members.
Yep.
And that's all I have on this happy occasion. I wish I were funnier. Like I said, next week I'm back. We're gonna write this up. You're gonna be listening to this on Friday. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I hope you've come to Ocean City or to the Delaware beaches and have a better attitude than I do. I don't come there, so you won't see me grumping around. I'll be here.
We keep you back in Del Mar, just
and also as a
keep
disclaimer,
the dark clouds.
Exactly. And also as a disclaimer, I didn't have any booze this week, and
maybe that's the problem.
That's why I can't go from outraged to happy. I can only go from outraged to sour. So I'm gonna go buy some gin.
Go get some gin.
Else anyway. How about you?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, until next time, remember, at the beach,
it's happy hour whenever you say it is.
Cheers.